witch of the East. Was it you?
No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to kill anybody.
Well, my little pretty, I can cause accidents too.
I really should have read Mason Quinn's note on those red shoes. Welcome to Monster Menagerie. I'm your humble host, Mason Kren. Mason's the title, Kren's the name. We're back for 2025 and ready for a new season of... Wait, what are we doing this year? Season 1 was vampires. Season 2 was demons. What's season 3?
Must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of
Yeah, thank you. Yes, 2025 is the year of the witch. But what does that even mean? Much like with vampires and demons, we're going to need to define witches so we can properly examine them. Within the Paladin Order, we recognize 3 basic classes of witches or witchcraft users: Hellborn, Pure, and Covenant. These won't necessarily pair well on a one-to-one basis with the witches we're going to see in pop culture this year, but we can adapt our definitions a little bit to allow us to analyze them. So, Hellborn witches get their powers from a demon contract. It's the most powerful form, and it maps pretty closely on what we usually see in movies and television. Pure witches tend to have a more innate source for their magic and spells, often described as taking their power from nature itself. Now, this is much weaker than Hellborn magic, but on the bright side, you don't typically lose your soul. Speaking of soul, our last class of witches are Covenant witches. Now, these witches tend to utilize objects like spell books or grimoires if you're feeling nerdy, or maybe some sort of artifact. Unlike a Hellborn witch, their power eats away at their soul bit by bit instead of collecting all at once. Each use of a cursed object or each spell read from a tome costs them a little bit of their soul, chipping away at the spellcaster and corrupting them from within. Now, as I said, this doesn't necessarily map well onto pop culture witches because, well, every franchise has different rules for their witches, so what even counts? Well, I think you'll see that this year, like previous years, we have a diverse selection. So, to account for this, we'll try this definition. A witch is anyone that intentionally practices magic and is referred to in-universe as a witch. Simple, huh? Now, since we started vampires with Dracula and demons with Pazuzu, it only seems right that we start off this season with the mother of all modern witches, the Wicked Witch of the West. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that if you enjoy what we do here at the Paladin Archives, we have regular weekly streams on Twitch and a website where you can learn more about the world of the Paladin Archives. That includes our new novel, The Paladin. Links down in the description below. Okay then, let's get this season started off with a bang. And while we're at it...
How about a little fire, Scarecrow? Oh!
Okay, first things first, we need to clarify something. Like all my analyses, we're only taking from a single source, in this case, the 1939 movie The Wizard of Oz. So when I say the Wicked Witch of the West, I do not mean Wicked's Elphaba. Fun fact, Elphaba's name apparently came from the author of the original Wizard of Oz books, L. Frank Baum. Frank Baum, get it? Yeah. Wicked, the book, the stage play, and now the movie, all differ drastically from the original source material. The Wizard of Oz book is already so much different from the 1939 movie, and then Wicked, the franchise, just keeps stretching it even further. So, just like I only did the one Dracula, I'll only be doing the Wicked Witch of the West and not Elphaba. Apologies in advance if you're disappointed. So, nothing from the book or musical. In fact, nothing even from L. Frank Baum's books will be considered, though I might occasionally note something if I find it interesting. And that's pretty much how we're going to work for the rest of the season. Unlike Wicked, or any of the myriad of sequels from the original story, the movie gives us very little background on the Wicked Witch. So, much like Dracula and Pazuzu from the last 2 seasons, this part's going to be a little thin and green. Now, famous for that green skin and her cackling laugh, we know she rules over the land of the Winkies. God, I love that name. This means she commands an army of Winkies and flying monkeys. She has a desperate desire for the ruby slippers of her sister, who apparently was the Wicked Witch of the East, smushed by Dorothy's house as it landed in Munchkinland. At the beginning of the movie, when Dorothy Gale is ripped up into the sky by that tornado, we see her neighbor, Almira Gulch, riding her bicycle outside the window, just hanging out in the tornado, I guess. Now, I'm choosing to ignore the fact that her farmhand acquaintances were just rowing a boat in the tornado because it completely derails my argument. But that said, we see Almira change into the Wicked Witch of the East. It makes sense to me. The house falls on a witch. There's a witch flying around her house. The East and West witches are apparently sisters, so, looking alike makes sense. So I choose to believe that Almira Gulch is the Wicked Witch of the East. I mean, we don't see what happens to her at the end of the movie. She, kind of disappeared, didn't she? Either way, I'm counting it. We all know the rest. House falls on the Wicked Witch of the East. Glinda shows up to spout some confusing lines. Wicked Witch of the West wants her sister's sweet kicks. Glinda snipes them and puts Dorothy in unnecessary danger, and,
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Dorothy meets the rest of her crew, and the witch tries a few times to kill the party before the Wizard of Oz puts a bounty on her head. Dorothy is finally captured, and in an act of desperation to save the Scarecrow from getting burned, splashes the witch.
I'm melting!
And that's it. Supposedly they wanted to do a sequel, and there was plenty of official source material to do so, but the actress for the Wicked Witch, Margaret Hamilton, felt the character was too scary for children and declined to reprise the role. Only to reprise the role for a banned episode of Sesame Street. Let's break down all the observed powers and assets we see from the Wicked Witch of the West, shall we? 1. Teleportation or apparition. We see her appear and disappear in a cloud of red smoke and flames several times in the movie. Now, according to Glinda the Good Witch,
Oh, rubbish! You have no power here.
this seems to be the case, as she doesn't take the shoes or harm anyone, but she can still teleport. She's clearly a master of this skill. Number 2, pyromancy. I love this one. Standing on a rooftop like a boss, she threatens Dorothy and then chucks a ball of fire at the Scarecrow. Isn't even bothered that he avoids it. She's not trying to kill him. She's sending a message. Number 3, scrying or remote viewing. First off, amazing crystal ball, 10 out of 10. Second, she gets all the channels. She watches Dorothy go everywhere in this. She even uses it to mess with her by channeling or maybe fabricating an image of Auntie M crying out for her niece. And best of all, it's fully integrated with her spellcasting. Speaking of... Number 4, spellcasting. We really only see the one spell, but there's a heavy inference that she can do a lot more. But it's not even the spell itself, causing poppies to put you to sleep until you die. That's impressive enough. It's the fact that she can cast that spell through her crystal ball. That's a game changer. If paladins are going to engage with her, we have to know that she can put a spell on you from miles away. Number 5, flight. What's a witch without a broomstick to ride? And ride she does. She's even skilled enough to threaten her foes with some skywriting. Number 6, Winky Guards and Flying Monkeys. She's got an entire army at her disposal. Minions galore. Sure, they're not terribly smart or loyal, but then again, nobody in Oz seems to be terribly smart. Now, let's take a look at her weaknesses to see what paladins might be able to exploit to defeat or subdue her. We only really come across 2 in the course of the movie. First off, number 1, mass trauma, aka drop a house on her. It worked on her sister, and when Glinda suggested it,
Be gone before somebody drops a house on you too.
look at the Wicked Witch. She actually flinches. She looks up to make sure someone isn't currently attempting to squash her with a house. I love it. Number 2, water. Dorothy's friends come to save her, but in the end, they're trapped in a corner. Being the absolute drama queen she is, and I celebrate her for it, the Wicked Witch lights the Scarecrow on fire with her own broom. In a desperate attempt to save her friend, Dorothy hucks some water at him and hits the witch. Boom! Our iconic, "Oh, what a world, what a world." So how do paladins handle the situation? Well, the teleportation is a tough one. Nothing comes to mind for stopping that. There are a few wards you can place to dampen witchcraft, depending on what kind of witch you're dealing with, but the fact she's able to do it within Glinda's purported sphere of power means stopping her will be hard, if it's even possible. Best bet is simply to be prepared for it. Realize she can appear or disappear at will, so actions need to be taken quickly. It's not an instantaneous process. She takes a second or 2 to get it going, so if you know what to look for and you're prepared, you should be able to initiate countermeasures like, well, shooting her. Heavy vestments and standard cassocks are flame retardant, but if you know she's coming, definitely have facial protection too. She seems to work with fireballs rather than sustain gouts of flame, so being light on your feet is a blessing too. The remote viewing is gonna be a big hassle, but if we're smart, we could use it to our advantage. She has to have her crystal ball in order to do it, so if we know where she is, we can speak freely. But we can also purposely feed her false information if we suspect she's watching. I think a close-knit parish with knights who know doublespeak and nonverbal communication will be essential. Say one thing, mean another. Spells are the bane of a paladin's existence. Anti-heretic paladins hate dealing with magic, especially magic that can happen at such a huge distance. It's complicated, it's confusing, and it's so hard to plan against. The very fact that we only see a few examples of her magic is what's so scary. We know she can do more, but we don't know what. White vestments may assist with resisting her spells, though that means you won't have the heavy vestments for dealing with fire and other big attacks. Maybe mix and match your responding team? Her flight isn't too bad. She doesn't seem particularly dangerous while on her broom. Mostly there's a threat of her revealing the hidden world to the greater population, which is more an annoyance than a deadly threat. I feel like she uses her teleportation for her actual transportation. The broomstick only seems to come into play when she's trying to play mind games. The Wicked Witch is already a pretty imposing threat, but once she's in the air, Dorothy and her friends really couldn't do much about her. But then again, Dorothy didn't have access to sniper rifles or anti-aircraft drones, so her guards, I mean, come on, the Three Stooges here fooled them. And those guys turned on the witch the moment she was dead, not a tear shed for her. Apparently in the book, they weren't happy to serve her. The flying monkeys were kind of like a genie deal, 3 wishes and then they're gone. And I really hate to keep stressing this point, but we have guns. And so does the Scarecrow, actually. The obvious answer, as I've used in previous assessments, is a water pistol. Not even holy water, just
Water! Ordinary water!
But the responding paladins are already strapped, so unless they're just into rationing their bullets, I think a standard loadout is fine. If a house can do it, I think a pistol probably can too. My job at the Order is to field incoming calls from paladins and get them the information they need to tackle monsters and minions of the night. Now, I'll admit they don't often listen to everything I have to say, and it's all important, guys. But the one thing they will listen to is my threat level. This is a shorthand, a quick scale of 1 to 10 that ranks how dangerous the subject is. While it does technically go up to 10, practically speaking, the ranking tops out at 6. The order has never encountered a threat beyond 6. So those ranks are more like hypothetical dangers. Room to grow, if you will. The Wicked Witch is powerful indeed, wielding some scary magic, but she was taken out by a backwaters dirt farmer from Kansas and her party of bumbleheads by accident. Trained professionals will not have an issue here. The water weakness opens up dozens of possibilities for taking her down. So, like Dracula before her, I sadly give our first Witch of the Year a threat level of 1. Hey, it's not an insult. She's the baseline. All the rest of our pop culture witches look to her for inspiration. It makes sense that she's the floor upon which the art of witchcraft is built. And trust me, the rest of our witches will be dropping on top of her baseline like a house. Lastly, let's identify her witchcraft type. As I mentioned at the start of this won't map perfectly onto witches this year, as it was designed to classify witches in our world, but we can still take a look at them. Looking closely at the Wicked Witch, she feels like a pure witch. So far as I know, and the movie doesn't suggest otherwise, she doesn't get her power from a contract with someone else. And she doesn't seem to be deriving her power from a special book or artifact. We see her conjure that fireball without needing any assistance, so that tells me she's a pure witch. Pure evil. And we're off. Here's to a brand new year of assessments, of witches, and fun. What'd you think? Personally, going back to watch The Wicked Witch was a lot more fun than I thought it'd be. Margaret Hamilton's performance is peak witch and just the ultimate in unrepentant evil villains. She's a cultural icon, the blueprint from which all other pop culture witches take inspiration. Scary, selfish, cruel, and of course, pure, absolute evil. And you know what? Hot take, I miss one-note, unrepentantly evil villains. There's been a huge trend over the last decade or so of redeeming classic villains. Wicked, of course, with the Wicked Witch of the West. Maleficent with, well, Maleficent. Cruella with Cruella de Vil. You know, the woman who wanted to skin puppies to make a coat. We needed to redeem her. She was clearly misunderstood. It's definitely fun to play what if and redeem villains. You know, not gonna yuck anybody's yum. There's definitely something to be said for more complex, nuanced villains. But I think every once in a while you need something that's simple. Just pure evil because it's evil. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and while you're at it, what witch in pop culture do you think we should cover this year? If you like this video, please like and subscribe, share a comment, and share the video around. We're trying something a little different this year, new looks, new format, so let me know if you're digging it. Oh, and don't forget to check out the novel and the website. I gotta run now. New witches are already in the pipeline. No, for real, there's a witch that regularly tries to infiltrate the stewardship, and this month she got stuck in the plumbing. Maddie wants me to check it out, so I gotta go grab my crystals and a plunger. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there.
Ugh. Why couldn't you dissolve in water?